Usually when we think about learning a language, there's this expectation of clinical precision.
Mhm.
You memorize the vocabulary word for a chair, you learn the rigid grammar rule for the past tense, and it just functions as this clean one-to-one translation.
Right. Yeah, it creates a false sense of security, really. You sort of assume that if you just master the textbook, the real world will perfectly map onto those exact lessons.
Exactly. But then you step into an actual modern office or log into a corporate Zoom call and that textbook suddenly feels completely useless.
So totally useless.
Because the reality of the corporate landscape is just murky. You're immediately hit with this flurry of bizarre metaphors, strange abbreviations, and phrases that honestly sound more like you're navigating a naval ship than sitting at a laptop.
Well, the vocabulary of the modern workplace isn't just about sharing data or giving instructions. I mean, it's an intricate code. It's used to navigate power dynamics, soften demands, and really signal your cultural fit within a team.
And decoding that landscape is exactly our mission today. So welcome, everyone, to this deep dive on the Biz English channel. We are absolutely thrilled to have you with us.
It's great to be here.
And before we unravel the underlying mechanics of corporate speak, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and please share your own opinions and experiences in the comments section below. We want to know how you handle these situations in your own career.
Because mastering this code is essentially about building frictionless relationships. When you deploy the right phrase at the precise right time, you are subconsciously proving to your colleagues that you understand the unwritten rules of the ecosystem.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's start with the collision between, weekend autonomy and corporate structure. Before any actual work happens, the week has to begin, and that creates this immediate need for psychological cushioning.
Oh, absolutely. The Monday transition.
Right. You hear this collective sigh across the office, usually accompanied by the phrase, a case of the Mondays. Or simply, Mondays, am I right?
Yeah, if you look closely at the sociology of the workplace, that phrase functions as a brilliant equalizer. It's a shared burden. I mean, the CEO and the newest intern might have nothing else in common, but they both experience the friction of transitioning from Sunday freedom to Monday obligation.
It kind of feels like the ultimate scapegoat, doesn't it?
That is exactly its utility. Instead of blaming yourself for lacking motivation or blaming a colleague because the Wi-Fi is acting up, you simply blame the abstract concept of the day itself.
Right. Poor Monday.
Exactly. Poor Monday absorbs all the frustration, allowing the team to just maintain harmony.
But, brushing off the Monday blues doesn't actually get the work done. The immediate pressure to perform creates this fascinating linguistic tool where we make these temporal promises.
Yes.
Someone asks for a report, and the immediate reflex is to say, I'll have it for you first thing in the morning.
The mechanics of that phrase are deeply strategic. Notice how people never say, I will do it at exactly 8 a.m. Let's say first thing.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
It's a deferral strategy. It buys you immediate peace today by leveraging tomorrow's energy.
It feels incredibly dedicated, though, like you're really committed.
It does, because it implies absolute priority.
Right.
It tells your colleague that before the chaos of the day begins, before the inbox fills up, their specific need is at the very top of the hierarchy.
You're trading a delay for a guarantee of focus.
Precisely.
But inevitably, you can't do everything yourself. You have to interrupt someone to ask for help, which is inherently awkward, especially in an era where everyone is complaining about being overwhelmed by constant Slack messages.
Oh, the digital interruptions are endless.
Right. So people use the phrase, when you have a minute, or do you have a minute? I guess I'm wondering, how does a phrase like that actually soften the blow of an interruption?
Well, it softens the blow by returning autonomy to the recipient. In a modern office, attention is the most scarce resource you have.
Yep.
So by saying, when you have a minute, you are explicitly acknowledging their state of deep work. You're communicating that your request is not a demand for their immediate attention, but a petition for their time whenever their current cognitive load allows for a context switch.
You're giving them permission to finish their thought.
Exactly.
That's a really great way to look at it. The alternative is demanding immediate velocity, which brings us to the fascinating dichotomy of how we describe digital communication. I constantly hear people say, let's hop on a call versus I'll shoot off an email or fire off an email.
Yeah, the classic communication verbs.
I always found those last two so aggressive. Like, why are we shooting and firing things?
The imagery is certainly aggressive, yeah, but the underlying motivation is about the physics of communication. So hopping on a call implies lightness.
Like a little jump.
Right. It minimizes the perceived burden of the interaction. It suggests a low-stakes, synchronous conversation that won't trap you in a formalized one-hour meeting.
It's the digital equivalent of just leaning into someone's cubicle.
Precisely. Now contrast that with shooting or firing an email. In a fast-paced environment, those words evoke ballistics.
Wow,
Yeah,
ballistics.
it's about speed, precision, and efficiency. It signals that you are sending a targeted, highly specific piece of information.
So it sets the expectation that the recipient isn't about to read a dense philosophical essay.
Exactly. It's a rapid-fire update that respects their time.
So we have established contact, we've respected everyone's boundaries, and now we need to generate some actual output. But actually, before we get into the strange vocabulary of idea generation, I want to forcefully pause this discussion right here.
Okay, let's pause.
Quick question for you, the listener. Do you need to use English for your current work? Or are you aiming to land a job where you do? Pause this video and let us know your situation in the comments. And hey, if you're finding these underlying mechanics as fascinating as I am, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Yes, definitely do that. The comment section is a great place to see these exact phrases in the wild, too.
Oh, for sure. Okay, let's dive into idea gathering. We are no longer an industrial economy, we are a knowledge economy. We aren't mining coal, we're mining each other's expertise.
That's a great way to frame it.
And the phrase people use for this is, can I pick your brains? If you take that literally, it is a horrific, zombie-like visual.
It really is. The literal imagery is grotesque, but in a corporate context, it operates as a highly effective form of flattery.
Flattery. Wait, how? Because you're acknowledging their expertise.
Well, yes, because you only seek to extract wisdom from a source you deem valuable.
Oh, I see.
By asking to pick someone's brain, you are publicly validating their experience and their insights. You're conceding that they possess a deeper understanding of the landscape than you do.
So it disarms their ego.
Exactly, making them far more willing to share their intellectual capital with you.
That definitely makes the transaction much smoother. But what if you aren't looking for like definitive wisdom, but you just want to test a fragile concept? People always ask to bounce some ideas off of you.
Bouncing ideas is fundamentally about mitigating risk. If you present a fully formed strategy, you are putting your reputation on the line.
Because if it fails, you fail.
Right. But if you are just bouncing ideas, you're significantly lowering the stakes.
It's kind of like a beta test for your thoughts.
That's exactly what it is. You toss an idea into the air to see how the aerodynamics hold up. The other person can bat it back, add some spin, or just let it drop entirely, and no one loses face.
It's a protective mechanism for the vulnerability of early-stage creativity.
Beautifully put, yes.
So how does that differ from our next corporate staple, the brainstorm? I feel like they get used interchangeably.
They do, but they're different. If bouncing an idea is an informal one-on-one beta test, brainstorming is the formal institutionalization of ideation.
Institutionalization, that sounds intense.
Well, a brainstorm is a scheduled event where the explicit rule is that judgment is suspended. The objective shifts from evaluating ideas to generating a sheer volume of raw material.
Throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. And while all this ideation is happening, the flow of information becomes crucial. People are terrified of being left behind, so they constantly ask to be kept in the loop.
Information is the currency of the corporate hierarchy. The loop visually represents the inner circle where decisions are actively shaped.
So asking to be kept in the loop is basically a proactive defense against FOMO.
The fear of missing out is huge in large organizations. Asking to be kept in the loop ensures you maintain visibility on a project's momentum without necessarily having to do the heavy lifting of managing it daily.
Speaking of heavy lifting, once the ideas are finalized, the actual execution reveals the true dynamics of the team. And anyone listening right now knows the systemic nightmare of group projects.
Oh yes, we've all been there.
You inevitably have the workhorse and you have the slacker. Let's look at the friction between those two identities.
The dynamic between the workhorse and the slacker represents a profound failure in management intervention, really.
Because the slacker creates a vacuum.
A massive vacuum. The slackers doesn't just fail to produce. They actively siphon momentum from the group.
Right.
And because the corporate machine demands output, regardless of individual effort, the highly reliable, diligent workhorse is forced to fill that vacuum to protect the team's overall reputation.
Which inevitably leads to the workhorse burning out while the slacker just sort of hides in the slipstream.
And this imbalance becomes critically apparent during a crisis. When a project reaches a breaking point, you will hear leadership declare, "We need all hands on deck."
That one obviously comes from naval history, like the captain literally needing every sailor out of their bunk and on the top deck of the ship to survive a storm.
Exactly.
But in an office setting, it seems to signal a total suspension of normal boundaries.
It's the ultimate override code. When a manager calls for all hands on deck, they are declaring an existential threat to a deadline or a product launch.
So your specific job title no longer matters.
Not at all. Marketing, IT, human resources, every silo is temporarily dissolved, and every individual is expected to actively participate in bailing water out of the boat.
But navigating that kind of chaos often triggers the worst instincts in leadership, which leads to our next concept, the tendency to micromanage. And, okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't a manager supposed to manage? Where is the line between doing your job and micromanaging?
It's a great question. The line is drawn between setting the destination and dictating the footsteps. A true leader provides the strategic vision, allocates the resources, and evaluates the final deliverable.
So what's micromanaging then?
Micromanaging is an anxiety response.
An anxiety response from the manager. Wait, really?
Often, yes. Usually due to a failure to transition from a doer to a facilitator. Instead of trusting the workhorse to execute, the micromanager hovers over their shoulder, obsessing over granular details.
Like dictating every mouse click or, reading every email draft.
Exactly. It replaces trust with control, which instantly suffocates the psychological safety required for creative problem solving.
It totally kills momentum.
Completely.
And momentum brings us to the trinity of corporate buzzwords. Align, streamline, and scalable. Let's look at how these three concepts dictate the physics of corporate strategy.
They perfectly describe the evolution of a successful initiative. It always begins with alignment.
So getting everyone pointed in the exact same direction.
Right. Because if a team's goals don't align with the broader company mission, all their energy is wasted just pushing sideways.
Use the vector.
Yes. Once you have the correct vector, then you have to streamline.
I often hear streamlining compared to like pulling rocks out of a river to let the water flow, but that feels a bit passive to me.
Yeah, a better way to visualize streamlining is putting a car in a wind tunnel. You are actively looking for friction.
Oh, I like that. So in a corporation, friction looks like what? Redundant meetings.
Redundant meetings, unnecessary middle management approvals, convoluted software systems. Streamlining is the aggressive shaving down of that aerodynamic drag so the company can move faster with less energy expenditure.
I hear scalable thrown around constantly in those same meetings, but isn't that just a fancy synonym for growth?
Not quite. Growth and scale are fundamentally different concepts in business.
Really? How so?
Well, growth means adding resources at the exact same rate that you add revenue. So if an accounting firm wants double the clients, they have to hire double the accountants. The effort and the output remain proportional.
Oh, I see. So what makes something truly scalable then?
Scale is the holy grail because it uncouples effort from revenue.
Okay, give me an example.
Think of a software product or a YouTube channel. It takes a massive amount of engineering or production to build the first copy of an application or the first video.
Right, tons of upfront work.
But to sell the millionth copy or reach 1 million viewers, it requires virtually zero extra effort. A scalable system can handle exponential increases in demand without a proportional increase in friction or cost.
That makes perfect sense. But even with a perfectly streamlined, highly scalable system, human beings are still involved.
Unfortunately for the systems, yes.
And human beings get distracted. This requires a specific toolkit for navigating meeting derailments. I mean, I've been in so many meetings where the team gets completely lost in the weeds.
Cognitive overload is a very real threat in collaborative spaces. Getting in the weeds is actually a manifestation of Parkinson's law of triviality. It's often called bike shedding.
Bike shedding. I haven't heard that term.
It's a great concept. It's the idea that a committee will spend an hour arguing over what color to paint the employee bike shed. This is a simple topic everyone understands.
Right?
But they will approve a multi-million-dollar nuclear reactor plan in 5 minutes simply because it's too complex to debate.
Wow. That is painfully accurate. So when a team gets in the weeds, they abandon the high-level strategic vision to hyper-focus on agonizing, unimportant details.
Yes. They argue about the font size on slide 42 instead of the actual budget deficit.
So how does a professional yank the team out of the weeds without, totally insulting the person who brought up the detail? The phrase you always hear is, let's put a pin in it.
Putting a pin in it is a masterclass in psychological safety and conflict resolution.
Because it validates their contribution.
Exactly. It validates the thought while aggressively protecting the meeting's agenda. You are visually suggesting that their idea is valuable enough to be pinned to a board for safekeeping rather than just being thrown in the trash.
It pacifies the contributor's ego while immediately halting the derailment. That's brilliant.
It is.
And the necessary companion to that is promising to circle back. You put a pin in it today and you circle back to it tomorrow.
It completes the conversational contract. You are assuring the team that the pin topic isn't dead, but simply rescheduled for a time when it won't threaten the primary objective.
And eventually, when the project is over and the dust settles, the team gathers for a debrief.
Ah, yes. The ritual of closure.
It has a military origin, right? Like interrogating soldiers after a mission.
It does, yes. In the corporate sphere, the debrief functions as the vital postmortem. It is the dedicated space to analyze the friction you encountered.
Like asking what workflows need to be streamlined, or where did we lose alignment?
Exactly. A thorough debrief ensures that the organization actually learns from its tactical errors rather than just endlessly repeating them.
Everything we have analyzed so far is deeply embedded in verbal communication, the spoken negotiations of office life. But the moment you transition to written business English, the rules change entirely.
Oh, completely. The ecosystem is governed by an alphabet soup of acronyms.
Written communication kind of strips away tone and body language, right? Replacing them with what feels like a brutal economy of keystrokes.
It really is brutal.
So let's decode the big five acronyms, starting with EOD, end of day. As in, I need the finalized budget by EOD.
EOD is fascinating because it attempts to impose a physical boundary on a digital world.
What do you mean?
Well, in an era of remote work and global teams, the literal end of the day no longer exists. Someone, somewhere, is always awake.
That's true.
Using EOD creates an artificial psychological finish line, giving the recipient a definitive structure to prioritize their tasks.
And when someone actually crosses that finish line and steps away from their laptop, they deploy the digital mote known as OOH, out of office.
Ooh. Auto replies have evolved significantly over the years. They used to be literal notifications of travel, like, I am physically not here.
And now?
Today, they function as vital boundary-setting tools. In an always-connected culture, an OO message is a defensive shield. It manages expectations, instantly absolving you of the guilt of not replying to the constant influx of demands.
But what if a demand manages to breach that shield? That brings us to the most dangerous acronym of them all. ASAP. As soon as possible. I feel like this is a phrase that needs a warning label.
It really does. It is the nuclear option of corporate acronyms.
The weaponization of urgency.
Exactly. ASAP implies that whatever task is currently on the recipient's desk must be immediately abandoned.
Drop everything.
Right. And the danger here is inflation. If a manager tags every single email as ASAP, the acronym entirely loses its impact.
It's like the boy who cried wolf.
Precisely. It simply trains the team to view the manager as erratic and incapable of prioritizing workflow. It really should be reserved strictly for genuine crises.
Contrast that stress with the absolute gentlest of acronyms. FYI, for your information.
FYI is the ultimate low-stakes transaction.
It feels like an offering. Here is a piece of context you might find useful, but I demand absolutely nothing from you in return.
It shares the wealth of information without passing the burden of responsibility. You are keeping someone in the loop without assigning them a task.
I love getting an FYI email. And finally, the acronym that unites the entire global workforce, the collective exhale at the end of the marathon, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. Or thank goodness it's Friday. You see this flooding company chat channels on Friday afternoons.
TGIF is the breakdown of the professional facade. It is the moment the collective workforce drops the corporate persona and acknowledges their shared humanity.
It's so relieving.
It really is. It perfectly bookends the dread of the case of the Mondays. The week begins with shared suffering and ends with shared survival.
It's the full emotional life cycle of the corporate machine. I mean, we've navigated the Monday blues, we've decoded the delicate art of bouncing ideas, we explored the friction between workhorses and slackers, and we analyzed the aerodynamics of streamlining a scalable business.
We really covered a lot of ground.
And we wrapped it all up in the rapid-fire text of EODs and TGIFs.
And, if we step back and look at the broader implication here, mastering this vocabulary is not about conformity.
It's not.
No. It's about influence. Language is the ultimate signaling mechanism. When you utilize these specific linguistic shortcuts, you are bypassing the rational filter of your colleagues and speaking directly to their subconscious.
Wow.
You are continually proving that you are a native speaker of their culture.
So you're building tribal trust with every circle back and every well-placed FYI. It transforms you from an outsider looking in to an integral part of the machinery.
Exactly, which is why understanding the why behind the words is infinitely more powerful than simply memorizing the what.
That is such a profound way to look at it. So, my provocative challenge for you listening right now, which of these phrases will you deploy tomorrow morning to subtly shift the power dynamic in your next meeting? Let us know down below in the comments.
I'd love to hear what people choose.
Thank you so much for joining this deep dive on the Biz English channel. Just a final reminder to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and keep this fantastic conversation going in the comments.
We look forward to reading your insights.
Until next time, keep your communications streamlined.